A pleasant morning to all participants, especially po sa ating mga learners, teaching and non-teaching personnel of the Department of Education, Division of Sultan Kudarat, Region 12. Magandang umaga din po sa ating mga participants from the Philippine Nurses Association Incorporated, Sultan Kudarat Chapter, with our chapter president, Ma'am Olive Tugade. Thank you po for sponsoring our event today. Also, special greetings to the whole school, the Libak Legislated National High School with our principal, Ma'am Mary Ann Aliman, and together with the ARH Technical Working Group, headed by Ma'am Jurnalyn Ambay. Thank you po for accepting the invitation of the DepEd School Health Section to host this International Candlelight Memorial 2022. And I would like to greet all of our ARH coordinators throughout the division and the region. Thank you po for sustaining our ARH program under the Oplan Kalusugan sa DepEd. I am Mr. Vicente Lacorte III. You can call me Nurse 30, and I am your speaker for today, and I'll be sharing with you the basic facts on HIV and AIDS.
HIV ang naitala sa Tacurong City.
Posibleng pumutok ang panibagong wave ng HIV infections.
179 sa kanila ang lalaki.
Isa siya sa mga kabataang positibo.
Age 15 to 25.
Nang mamulat sa pakikipagtalik, HIV positive siya.
HIV awareness that is timely and relevant to my country, which is the Philippines.
Human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, is considered by some as a global pandemic. As of 2018, approximately 37.9 million people are infected with HIV, and 77,000 died from AIDS globally. And one of the strategies identified by the World Health Organization to reduce HIV transmission is by increasing awareness on HIV and AIDS in the community, workplace, schools, and all other venues through advocacy on different media and activities like this. So HIV is an illness that does not discriminate. Lahat po tayo ay pwedeng magkaroon ng HIV and AIDS, which is why it is very essential for all, especially for adolescents, to be educated of how to protect themselves from HIV and how to stop its spread. So this webinar will introduce to you the basics of HIV and AIDS in terms of its trends, characteristics, prevention, testing, and treatment. So nakita niyo po sa slide ang ating global profile on HIV and AIDS. So according to the Joint United Nations Program on HIV and AIDS in 2019, ang Pilipinas ang isa sa mga bansang may mabilis na pagtaas ng HIV sa buong mundo. In other words, the Philippines has ranked as the country with the fastest growing number of HIV cases in the world, alongside with Indonesia, Australia, Papua New Guinea, Mongolia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. Obviously, there is an increasing problem of HIV in the Philippines for the past 10 years. From January 1984 to December 2020, there were already a total of 82,865 Filipinos newly diagnosed with HIV. So for the daily cases, noong 2008, meron lamang isang Pinoy ang nagkakaroon ng HIV. However, umabot tayo ng 2011, umakyat ito ng 6. In 2014, umakyat ito to 16. In 2016, naging 25 cases per day. And in 2019, ang pinakamataas, ito po ay naging 35 newly diagnosed HIV cases per day. So according to the DOH, the increase is not only related to the spread of HIV epidemic, but it is also related to the efforts of the government to provide free access to HIV testing to the vulnerable population in the community. Moreover, ang pagtaas ng ating daily count ay kaugnay din sa dumadaming Pilipino na willing na magpa-test ng kanilang status on HIV. However, due to the emergence of COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the access to HIV counseling, testing sa ating mga community health facilities ay naging mahirap. Kaya ang number of our newly diagnosed HIV cases mula 35 naging 22 dahil masyadong mahirap po noong pandemya due to local lockdowns at yung mga health protocols po natin na makapag-access ng mga health services gaya ng HIV testing. Furthermore, from January to December 2020, there were 8,058 newly confirmed HIV positive individuals reported to the HIV and AIDS and ART Registry of the Philippines or the HARP. At doon nakita po na 20% ng nagpa-test ay nasa advanced HIV or nasa AIDS stage na at the time of testing. Kaya mas mahalaga na magpa-test ng early if ikaw po ay sexually active. So for the proportion of the newly diagnosed HIV cases in the Philippines, 28% were from the National Capital Region, the Region 7 with 26%, Region 4A with 13%, Region 3 with 8%, and Region 1 with 6% comprise the top 5 regions with the most number of newly diagnosed or newly reported cases for this reporting period, and together accounting for the 81% of the total cases. Saan naman po tayo dyan? Ang Region 12 po ay nakapagtala ng less than 1% na kaso ng HIV. Kung titingnan natin, masyadong mababa, no? Less than 1%. Pero pag hinimay-himay po natin yon, no? That number is still alarming. So HIV and AIDS cases by sex. In the early years of the epidemic, from 1984 to 1990, 62% of those diagnosed ay mga babae. However, since 1991, the proportion of newly diagnosed male has been greater than that of females each year. Tumaas po ito. From 1991 to present, ang mga lalaki po ay comprised ng 94% of the 82,865 na na-diagnose sa Pilipinas. In addition, from January 2018 to December 2020, 3% of the diagnosed cases were assigned male at birth and reported their self-identity as female. In short, transgender po sila at the time of testing. In December 2020 alone, majority or 95% of newly diagnosed are male, while 5% are female. So pinapakita po sa ating statistics na mas marami pa rin po ang mga lalaking nagkakaroon ng HIV sa Pilipinas. For HIV and AIDS cases by age group from January to December 2020, the median age was 28 years old, and it ranges from 1 month to 82 years old. Half of the cases, or 51%, were 25 to 34 years old. Yung mga millennial group natin, yung mga kaedad ko. And 29% were 15 to 24 years old, yung mga Gen Zs natin at the time of diagnosis. It simply means that majority sa mga kaso ay nasa grupo ng mga millennials. At ano pang pinaka-alarming dito, humahabol na din ang mga Gen Zs, yung mga high school students natin, mga young adults natin, no, mga college students with 27%. Ano po ba ang mga rason kung bakit humahabol na sila sa mga millennials? Gaya na sa nakikita ninyo, yung image, no, ni Batman and Robin, this is because of the technology. So from January 1984 to December 2020, 23,733 or 29% of the reported cases were 15 to 24 years old. 97% were infected through sexual contact. And 75% of all those 15 to 24 years old at the time of testing ay na-diagnosed from January 2015 to December 2020 lamang. And since 2004, mas maraming lalaki ang nadadiagnose from this age group, yung ating 15 to 24 years old, no, yung ating mga Gen Zs. However, the number of diagnosed HIV cases sa mga babae ay medyo tumaas na din, no, for the past 5 years. And the total diagnosed females ages or age 15 to 24 years old in January to December 2020 alone was 43% na mas mataas kumpara noong 2015. Alarming, right? Now let's go to the modes of transmission. So sexual contact remained as predominant mode of transmission with 92%. And among the newly reported cases acquired HIV through sexual contact, 62% were through male-to-male sex. 62% ay nakuha nila through male-to-male sex. 24% nakuha nila through males who have sex with both male and female. And 14% nakuha nila through heterosexual sex or male having sex to opposite sex. And further, 4% were infected through sharing of needles, and only 3 cases or less than 1% were infected through mother-to-child transmission. Kaya hina-highlight talaga sa ating mga adolescents na umiwas muna sa sexual activities, and the best way to prevent HIV transmission is through abstinence and education. Now, let's go to HIV 101. Ito po yung mga basic facts natin on HIV. At alam ko naman po na many of our learners and participants from the Philippine Nurses Association ay familiar na sa usapin ng HIV and AIDS. So let us review. What is HIV? HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Human because this virus can only infect human beings. Hindi po siya nakukuha sa hayop. Immunodeficiency because the effect of this virus is to create a deficiency or failure to work properly within the body's immune system. And virus because this is an organism, a retrovirus, which means it can reproduce itself by taking over the machinery of the human cells. Nagpaparami ang HIV sa loob ng ating katawan. What is AIDS? AIDS stands for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. Acquired means the infection may be transferred, napapasa, from one person to another. Immune means the immune system at this stage, no, nasa AIDS condition na, is compromised. Pag sinabing AIDS, nasira na ang immune system. Deficiency. The body can no longer fight off infection kasi nga sabi ko kanina, nasira na ang ating immune system, and ang isang tao may suffer from 1 or 2 or 3 or more opportunistic infections. At kapag nagsabay-sabay ang mga infection na ito at pwede na niyang ikamatay, ang tawag doon ay ang syndrome. At sa usapin ng HIV and AIDS, meron tayong dapat tandaan. Ito ang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of HIV and AIDS. So let's start with number 1. What are the links or kaugnayan ng HIV sa mga sumusunod? Sexually transmissible infection, tuberculosis, and pregnancy. Unahin po natin ang kaugnayan ng HIV sa STI. Pareho po sila ng mode of transmission. Ang HIV at ang STI ay nakukuha natin sa pamamagitan ng sexual and non-sexual contact. Number 2, same preventive measure. Paano po natin maiiwasan ang HIV at STI? Through abstinence and use of condom and education. Ang pagkakaroon ng STI ay nagpapataas ang tsansa mong magkaroon ng HIV because you engage in unprotected penetrative sex. And fourth, kapag meron ka ng STI, dapat lamang malaman mo ang mga paraan upang maiwasan ang mga complication at iba pang sakit na pwede nating maiugnay sa STI kagaya ng HIV. So entry point ito for information dissemination. Next, ano ang kaugnayan or link ng HIV sa pagbubuntis? Pregnancy is a sign of practicing unsafe sex. Kagaya sa HIV, nabuntis ang isang babae dahil hindi siya gumamit ng condom sa pakikipagtalik. And being pregnant can transmit HIV from mother to her child. And lastly, ano ang kaugnayan ng HIV sa TB or tuberculosis? TB is a sign na meron kang weak immune system, kagaya sa HIV. Pinapahina ng HIV ang immune system. At ang low immune system sa mga tao ay nagpapataas ng tsansa mong makasagap or makakuha ng opportunistic infection kagaya ng pneumonia, meningitis, no, at iba pa. Chlamydia and other fungal infection, pwede din po. And tuberculosis is the most common opportunistic infection among people living with HIV sa Pilipinas. Marami pong HIV or people living with HIV ang mayroong tuberculosis. Kaya pinagsasabay po ang kanilang treatment. At sa ibang health facility, pag meron kang HIV, pinapatest ka sa tuberculosis. Kasi nga mahina yung inyong immune system. Kaya mas madali ka pong makakuha ng tuberculosis. Ayan, natapos na po tayo sa number 1. So let's proceed to number 2. What are the two phases or ano ang dalawang yugto ng HIV infection? In other words, ano po yung 2 stages? Ang unang stage ng HIV ay ang HIV infection. Ito ay ang matagumpay na pagpasok ng mikrobyo ng HIV sa katawan ng tao. So from day 0, nung pumasok ang virus sa katawan ng tao, pumapasok tayo sa isang tinatawag na window period kung saan ang virus sa katawan ng tao ay tahimik na nagpaparami. At sa loob ng 0 to 3 months, ang HIV testing ay hindi pa nadedetect kung ikaw ay positive sa HIV antibodies. And after 3 months, pag-abot natin ng 6 to 4 years no, in maximum, yung immune system ay nasira na at nagkakaroon ka na ng symptoms kagaya ng flu-like symptoms, no? Ubo, lagnat, sipon, pagtatae. At dapat dito, sa stage na ito, ikaw na ay magpa-test. No? Especially if ikaw ay sexually active. No? Dapat ka pong magpa-test for HIV testing. At kapag hindi ka pa nagpa-test at hindi ka pa nakasik ng medical treatment kagaya ng antiretroviral drug sa panahong ito, pwedeng mag-proceed ang inyong kondisyon sa phase 2, ang AIDS condition. Ito ay ang kondisyon na produkto ng pagkasira ng natural na depensa dulot ng HIV. Dito no, approximately 4 years no and up ay ang AIDS ay magte-take over na sa iyong katawan kung saan ang iyong immune system ay masyadong mahina na. mas marami na ang level ng virus sa iyong katawan kumpara sa level ng CD4 cells or yung ating mga white blood cells. At alam naman po natin na ang function ng ating mga white blood cells is to protect our body from infection. So kung masyadong mataas na ang infection sa katawan ng tao at masyadong mababa ang white blood cells, maraming opportunistic infection ang tatama sa katawan ng isang individual na merong AIDS na pwede niyang ikamatay. So let's proceed to the next, number 3. What are the 3 modes or tatlong pamamaraan ng pagkahawa ng HIV? These are unprotected penetrative sex or pakikipagtalik na walang proteksyon, receiving contaminated blood and blood products or patanggap ng kontaminadong dugo, and infected mother to her child transmission or mula sa inang positibo ng HIV patungo sa kanyang anak. Iisa-isahin po natin ang explanation, no? Let's go muna sa unprotected penetrative sex. So, or ang pagtatalik na walang proteksyon, no? Either anal, vaginal, or oral sex. So, as we all know, HIV is present sa dugo, no? In the blood, as well as in the semen of males and vaginal fluid of females. So, sexual intercourse can cause small cuts or gasgas sa mucosal lining, no? Like tiny abrasions in the penis, vaginal or anal wall. So, this allows the semen or vaginal fluid or blood of one person to enter the bloodstream of another person. Kasama dito ang HIV. Second, receiving contaminated blood and blood products. Sharing of HIV-contaminated needles and syringes among people who inject drugs has one of the highest risks of HIV transmission. The HIV-contaminated blood that exists in the body goes into the needle or syringe briefly and then directly enters the bloodstream of an infected person when the same needle or syringe is used. Pwede din po tayong makakuha ng HIV kapag tayo po ay nag-undergo ng organ transplantation or blood transfusion kapag ang mga organs na ito ay galing sa mga hindi otorisadong ahensya or black market. For blood transfusion or organ transplantation in the Philippines, the government tests all donated blood and blood products from blood service facilities for HIV and other infections like hepatitis B, hepatitis C, syphilis, and malaria. So this is mandated under the Republic Act 7719 or the National Blood Service Act of 1994. And there has been no recorded HIV infection through blood transfusion in the Philippines since 2011. Kaya nakakasigurado po tayo yung mga dugo na galing sa ating mga blood banks gaya ng Philippine Red Cross at mga hospitals po natin ay safe from HIV. And infected mother-to-child transmission or mula sa inang positibo ng HIV patungo sa kanyang mga anak. Ang HIV po ay napapasa ng nanay sa kanyang anak during pregnancy, natural delivery, and breastfeeding. This is why masyado talagang importante that an HIV-positive mother gets diagnosed early and takes antiretroviral drugs to reduce the chance of infecting her child during pregnancy, delivery, and breastfeeding. So if an HIV-positive pregnant female already knows her HIV status and is not yet taking ARV or antiretroviral drug, she should immediately call or immediately go to the doctor and start the antiretroviral therapy para po ang kanyang anak ay hindi makakuha ng HIV. And number 4, what are the 4 body fluids known to transmit HIV? Ito po yung mga 4 na likido sa katawan ng tao na may mataas na konsentrasyon ng HIV at nagdadala ng HIV. So ano po ba ang apat na body fluids na ito? Una, ang blood or dugo. Second, semen or tamod. Third, vaginal fluid or hima. And fourth, breast milk or gatas ng ina. And these fluids are known for their higher HIV concentration. At kapag ang isang tao ay na-expose dito at nagkaroon ng sugat, no, pwedeng pumasok doon ang HIV sa sugat, pero wag po munang mag-alala dahil hindi naman automatically na kapag kayo na-expose sa body fluids na ito ay automatically magkakaroon po kayo ng HIV. Meron pong proseso na pinagdadaanan nito. Ito po yung 4 conditions of successful HIV transmission. So dapat po nating tandaan ang mga conditions na ito. Exit, survival, sufficiency, and entry. Una, exit. No? The exit of the virus from the body of HIV-infected host. Ang unang kondisyon na dapat pumapunan ay ang paglabas ng virus sa katawan ng taong may HIV infection. And ang HIV only infects humans, it cannot infect mosquitoes and other animals. So HIV has to exit the human body in order to infect another person. Next is survival or kaligtasan ng virus sa labas ng taong may HIV infection. Now let's proceed to the next condition. Survival of the virus outside the body of the host or ang kaligtasan ng virus sa labas ng taong may HIV infection. Based on research, ang HIV po ay isang fragile na virus. Madali lamang po siyang patayin or puksain. Kaya in order na makapanghawa or maka-infect siya ng ibang tao ay dapat po ma-meet niya ang tamang environment. Tama means temperature not too extreme, hindi masyadong mainit. Acidity is normal, kagaya ng acidity ng katawan ng tao. Moist or mamasa-masang environment, and air is not present. In other words, HIV easily dies outside the body. For HIV to survive after exiting a person, it has to immediately enter another person. Changes in temperature, can cause the virus to die faster. And HIV cannot survive in swimming pools or toilet bowls, and it also cannot survive in food or eating utensils. Next is the sufficiency or ang dami ng virus. Kinokonsidera din po natin ang dami ng mga body fluids or gaya ng blood, seminal fluid, vaginal or cervical fluid, and breast milk. No? So aside from exiting the body and being able to survive outside the body, so there has enough amount of the virus to infect another person. Again, only blood, semen, vaginal fluids, and breast milk carry enough HIV na pwede pong maka-infect sa ibang tao. And fourth, entry. Entry of the virus to the bloodstream of the new host or ang pagpasok ng virus sa katawan or ugat ng taong wala pang HIV infection through unprotected penetrative sex, receiving contaminated blood and blood products, and infected mother-to-child transmission during pregnancy, delivery, and breastfeeding. At kapag na-meet po ang apat na kondisyon na ito, yung S natin, entry, exit, survival, sufficiency, at entry, doon pa lang po magkakaroon ng isang tao ng HIV infection. Now, number 5. What are the 5 ways of HIV prevention? Ano ang 5 paraan sa pag-iwas sa pagkakaroon ng HIV infection? So, dapat po natin tandaan ang ABCDE of HIV prevention. So, let's start with letter A. A stands for abstinence or ayoko muna sa sex. So, do not have sex. No? In case of adolescents like you, delaying sexual debut or the age of first sexual intercourse will help. Next is B, stands for be mutually faithful or Basta ikaw at ako lamang. Have one sexual partner. And C. Correct and consistent use of condom. Condom ay gamitin ng palagi at tama. And D. Do not abuse drugs and alcohol because these substances can affect our decision-making skills. Kasi alam naman natin, paglulong ang isang tao sa droga or alcohol, pwede siya makagawa ng mga bagay na risky, gaya ng unprotected penetrative sex na pwedeng humantong sa pagkakaroon ng STI at HIV. And lastly, letter E, education and early detection. Mahalaga po talaga ang education, kagaya ng ating mga mahalaga po talaga ang education. Ito po ay kagaya ng ginagawa natin ngayon, na ang ating mga participants, ating mga learners, ang ating mga partners from the Philippine Nurses Association ay nabibigyan ng information about HIV and AIDS para maging aware sila on how to prevent HIV and AIDS. And early detection. So early HIV detection and treatment is important because it reduces patient mortality or pagkamatay ng isang tao and prevent future HIV transmission. Again, take note, the earlier you're diagnosed with HIV, the earlier you can begin treatment. So wag po natin kalimutan ang ABCDE of HIV prevention. Ulitin po natin, A stands for abstinence. Ayoko muna sa sex. B, be mutually faithful. Basta ikaw at ako lang. C, correct and consistent use of condom. Condom ay gamitin palagi at tama. D, do not abuse drugs and alcohol. Droga at alcohol ay huwag abusuhin. And E, education and early detection. Edukasyon at maagap na detection ay importante sa pag-iwas sa HIV. So yun na po ang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of HIV and AIDS. Ngayon, magre-review po tayo through this game. Let us test your learnings on HIV and AIDS by answering the following questions. I'd like to invite everyone to type in your answers at the comment section below. So true or false? Can you get HIV from donating blood? The answer is false. Ang pagbibigay ng dugo or blood donation ay hindi nakakapagpasa ng HIV. What is wrong is receiving contaminated blood and blood products. Next question. Can you get HIV from multiple sexual partners? True or false? The answer is true. Ang pagkakaroon ng maraming sexual partners ay nagpapataas ng tsansa mong magkaroon ng STI at HIV. Ang sabi nga ng iba, the more entries you send, the more chances of winning HIV. Next question. Can you get HIV from swimming with people living with HIV? True or false? The answer is false. Ang pagsiswimming kasama ang isang taong may HIV ay hindi magdudulot ng pagkahawa. So again, the answer is false. Next question. Can you get HIV from sharing of eating utensils? True or false? The answer is false. Although ang laway ng tao ay merong HIV, masyadong maliit lamang ito upang makapanghawa. Balikan po natin ang 4 body fluids na may mataas na konsentrasyon ng HIV. Ano po ba ito? Blood, semen, vaginal fluid, and breast milk. Ang laway po, although may HIV traces, ay hindi po sapat ang kanyang dami upang makapagdulot ng HIV sa tao. Next question, can you get HIV from kissing a person with HIV? True or false? The answer is false. Ang pag-alik sa taong may HIV ay hindi nakakapagpasa ng infection. Kagaya sa pag-share ng ating eating utensils, ang virus sa laway ng taong may HIV ay hindi sapat upang makatransmit ng HIV sa iba. Next question, can you get HIV from using toilets? True or false? The answer is false. No, using toilets used by people living with HIV ay hindi magdudulot ng HIV infection sa iyo. Balikan po natin ang 4 modes of HIV transmission. Ito po ay ang unprotected penetrative sex, receiving blood and blood products, and from mother to child transmission. So hindi po kasali doon ang using of toilet. So false. Next question. Can you get HIV from insect bite? True or false? The answer is false. Although ang involved po dito ay ang dugo, balikan po natin ang meaning ng HIV. HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Tao lamang po ang pwedeng magkaroon at pwedeng makapagpasa ng HIV mula sa iba, hindi po through insect bite. At kung babalikan po natin yung 4 conditions for successful HIV transmission, no? Ang HIV po ay hindi makakasurvive sa katawan ng isang mosquito dahil iba ang condition sa loob ng katawan ng mosquito compare sa tao. Next question, and the last, can you get HIV from sharing of syringes? True or false? The answer is true. Sharing of contaminated needles can transmit HIV infection. Thank you very much for participating. At ilan po ba ang inyong nakuha? Nakakuha po ba kayo ng perfect score? Magaling. Now, let's proceed to the next part of the lecture. Paano po natin malalaman kapag ang isang tao ay merong HIV or HIV positive? Ang sagot, through antibody testing. Ang HIV infection po ay pwedeng malaman only through blood testing. It cannot be known or diagnosed based on appearance or symptoms alone. And HIV testing is the only way to know if a person has HIV infection. And it is recommended that a person who engage in risky sexual behaviors get tested for HIV every 3 to 6 months. So there are many public health facilities called hygiene clinics that specialize in the provision of HIV and STI services. And many services are offered for free in these clinics. Now let's talk again about window period. What is window period? It is the period when the body do not yet produce an antibody, hence HIV will not yet visible or detect upon testing. Ito po yung 0 to 3 months na window period kung saan ang virus ay silently nagpaparami sa katawan ng tao na hindi pa detectable na mga tests. Ano naman ang antiretroviral therapy or ART? So while HIV cannot be cured, wala pa pong gamot, no, to cure HIV, treatment called antiretroviral drug can prolong or magpahaba sa buhay ng isang tao may HIV. So the management of HIV and AIDS normally includes the use of maraming antiretroviral drugs in an attempt to control HIV infection. So there are several classes of antiretroviral agents that act on different stages of the HIV life cycle. And taking ART, antiretroviral therapy, means that people living with HIV can live longer and healthier lives may pag-asa pa po, no, para sa mga people living with HIV. And ART is available and provided for free by the Department of Health. At kailangan lang po nating mag-access sa kanila through our social hygiene clinics. At saan po makikita ang ating mga HIV treatment hub or social hygiene clinics in Region 12? Meron po tayo sa South Cotabato Provincial Hospital, General Santos City Social Hygiene Clinic, at sa mga participants po natin na galing sa Calamansig and Libak, meron po tayo diyang HIV treatment hub sa RHU Calamansig. So dito po sa treatment hub, hindi lamang treatment ang binibigay nila, nag-o-offer din po sila ng free counseling, testing for HIV, no? At iba pa pong health-related services sa mga people living with HIV or vulnerable group. And we are now at the end part of the presentation. But before I end my talk, I would like to share with you this video.
Gusto mo?
Anak, wag yan! Bakit kasi hinayaan ng magulang na gawin yan? Hindi ba nakakahawa yan?
Sa mata ng mga taong may konting alam tungkol sa kanya, nakakatiri siya.
Agnes? Agnes! Agnes!
Alam mo namang namatay na ang pamangkin ko. Yung best friend mong nagbigay ng pasaning ito, walang na mag-alaga sa kanya. Inayawan siya ng sariling kamag-anak. Pero tinanggap ko siya. Hindi ko alam kung anong haharapin ko noon.
Mrs., kailangan regular siyang i-test at i-monitor. Ganun talaga pag may HIV.
Ano po? Ano?
Nung narinig ko yun, HIV, parang gumuho ang mundo ko. Pero hindi ko siya binitawan.
Ay, Diyos ko! Baka naman magkasakit ka niyan sa ginagawa mo. Hindi ka ba natatakot?
Nag-iba tingin sa amin ng mga tao. At walang oras na di ako nag-alala.
Ito yung
Pero hindi ako nawalan ng pag-asa. Ang hiling ko lang, sana maging kaya siya ng mga batang nakakapasok sa eskwela. May mga kaibigan. 4 na taon ang hinintay ko bago marinig to. Natutulog na ang virus sa katawan niya. Ngayon, tulad lang siya ng ibang bata. Hindi niya piniling ipanganak ng ganito. Pero ang lagi kong iniisip, kung ano man ang nasa dugo niya, paulit-ulit na tinatalo ng pagmamahal ko sa kanya.
So itinampok sa 4-minute video ang isang batang ipinanganak na may HIV infection. Nang namatay ang kanyang ina mula sa sakit, siya sa edad na 4 na buwan ay ibinigay sa kanyang kamag-anak na nagngangalang Agnes na kaibigan ng kanyang ina. So nakita natin sa video kung paano nalaman ni Agnes ang tungkol sa kalagayan ng bata. At sa halip na talikuran ng bata, ipinangako niyang papalakihin niya ito at bibigyan ng pagmamahal at pangangalaga. Ito ang simula ng magandang pagbabago sa buhay ng dalawa. Ipinaalam dito kung paano ipinaglaban ni Agnes ang buhay ng bata laban sa lahat ng pangungutya at diskriminasyon mula sa mga taong nakapaligid sa kanila. Ngayon, dahil sa walang patid na pagmamahal at pag-aalaga ni Agnes, ang HIV infection sa bata ay natutulog na sa kanyang katawan. So nakita po natin sa video na although ang HIV ay walang cure or gamot, ang pwede po nating ibigay sa mga people living with HIV ay ang ating pagmamahal, pag-aalaga at pag-intindi. Dahil kagaya natin, ang mga people living with HIV ay may mga pangangailangan din. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig at naway meron po kayong natutunan sa ating lecture ngayong umaga. And this is Nurse Terdy Lacorte na nag-iiwan sa inyo ng mga katagang, until a cure is found, the only effective prevention is not to allow the virus to enter the body. Marami pong salamat at mabuhay po tayong lahat.